Hi, my name's Katie. I am a professional makeup artist and I am here with makeup tutorials to help you get really good at doing your own makeup. In today's video, I am going to be going over all of the foundation textures and bases and formulas that are out there and available to you to help you make a decision on what might work best for you. So if that sounds interesting to you, just keep watching. So there are a lot of foundation formulas out there that are available. There's a lot to choose from. It can be very confusing. I'd say probably one of the number one questions I get from my clients, my friends and my family is, what kind of foundation is best? Well, that really depends on what you're looking for, right? Because each one will do something different for you. You know, what kind of finish do you want? How do you want to apply it? What's practical for you in your everyday life? What is it being used for, right? Are you in front of a camera all the time? Are you just running around in your day-to-day? Are you at an office? Are you, wearing a mask all day, right? What is the application that you're using it for, and what do you want it to look like? What is practical, right? Like I said. So I'm going to go through the different bases and textures and formulas that are available on the market. Obviously, I can't list every brand and every formula, but I'm going to let you know in general what is out there so that you can kind of narrow down the field and just hopefully find what you are looking for. So I'm going to start with bases. So that is the base of the formula, right? The formula of the foundation itself. Obviously there's pigment to it. That's what gives it its color, right? And different levels of pigment are going to give you anything from a sheer to a full coverage, depending on how much pigment is in the product and what it's mixed with. So your bases are going to be water, oil, silicone, wax, a hybrid, which means one of those above with an added skincare element to it, mineral, or alcohol, right? So those are going to be your different bases, different base formulas. They'll all have different finishes to them. They all will do different things with the skin. If you tend to have reactions to foundations, then you want to look at what the ingredients are in that, what the bases are, to help you know what kind to avoid, right? So your water bases are going to be they're really buildable, the water bases. They can be anywhere from sheer to full coverage. They tend to be more matte in coverage, and they're not as long wearing. The oil bases tend to go on really smoothly. They're really good for dry skin. They sit nicely on the skin. They're very emollient. You can put a lot of pigments in them. The silicone bases are the newest development, right? Those are the most popular ones. The silicones make them sit really nicely on the skin. They have a lot of blurring effects. They make the skin look really nice without a lot of layers, a lot of heaviness that you had from your water and your oil-based formulas that are the oldest, right? Then you have your wax formulas. These are typically made with like a carnauba wax or a beeswax. These will hold the most pigment. You'll see them most in professional applications, in film, TV, for stage, those kinds of applications. And I'll get into those a little bit. Your hybrid formulas are going to be the ones that have your silicone, water, oil, whatever base with an added skincare ingredient to it. And I'll explain a little bit more, give you an example of that. Then you have your mineral bases, which are going to be, the mineral means that the color is derived from the minerals that are in the formula rather than an additional specific color like, red 3 or whatever it is. They're going to be derived from the minerals themselves. And they react differently on the skin. And then you have your alcohol bases, which you're going to see mostly in effects makeup, in TV makeup, in things that are waterproof, like covering up a tattoo or something like that. They're very, very drying, the alcohol-based ones, and so you don't see them a lot on the face outside of those specific applications that require them. Okay, so those are all of your bases: water, oil, silicone, wax, hybrid, mineral, and alcohol, right? There's a lot, okay? So the different types, the different textures, the different formulas that are out there with those bases in them. Let's start with the most sheer, right? You have the most sheer ones are going to be your color washes, your tinted moisturizers. They're usually a gel or a lotion type of consistency. They have very little pigment in it. They're just meant to kind of help blur things. So a color wash would be something that is like a peach brightener, right? That's something that has a little peach tint to it, or the lilac brighteners where they help correct yellowness in the skin, where it has just that little bit of lilac tint to it, and it's just a color wash. A tinted moisturizer is a moisturizer with just a little bit of pigment in it to help kind of even out the skin tone, right? Those are our tinted moisturizers, and I was surprised I did not have any of those. I usually have some, but I've been mixing my own concoctions lately, so I didn't have any that I could show you. But you get the idea. They've been around for a long time. The next one I'd say, as far as coverage is concerned, that will get you anywhere from sheer to full coverage, are going to be your liquids. These are going to be the most common, the ones that you see the most of out there in the marketplace, anywhere from drugstore to the high-end luxury brands, right? So I do have some examples of some liquid ones here. So this is a silicone base. This is made by Ellis Foss. Let me show you on my hand here just a little bit of how, let's see if you can see how that coverage is on the skin, right? So the silicone blurs a lot. You tend to get a little bit more of a dewy illuminating finish, unless they put ingredients in there that mattify it. Right? So see if you can see that on my white hand that my camera's correcting for. Okay. So see if you can see the finish of that on the skin. These are mine, so obviously they're going to be my skin tone, but hopefully you can see that. Okay, and then the next liquid that I have to show you, so this is one by Ellis Foss here, I would say is medium to full coverage, right? So it's going to start at a more medium coverage and then you can build it up to a full coverage. The next one that I have is made by Beauty Blender, also a silicone base. I'm showing you the wrong side of it. There you go. You can see that's the palette side. It's got cool packaging. So you press this button to pump it out here. Let me get that on my finger. Show you here on this part of my hand. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it gives a much more full coverage, if you can see that in comparison to the Ellis Foss that I put there, right? Okay, and then we have, this is the Makeup Forever Reboot foundation. So this is going to be a hybrid formula. It's their silicone base, right? They're very famous for their HD cover foundation, and that one's a silicone base. This is their Reboot, and it has skincare ingredients in it to help improve the skin over time, right? So that's going to be more of a hybrid formula. So let's put that one right here and blend that in a little bit. So if you can see, it's a much more liquidy formula. It's not as thick of a formula. It's a little bit more sheer to medium coverage, if you can see that, right? So we have the Ellis Foss, which is more of a medium to full. We have that Beauty Blender Bounce foundation that's more of a full coverage matte formula. And then we have the Then we have, if I can remember what I'm doing, the Makeup Forever Reboot right here, right? That's going to be a lighter, more sheer to medium coverage. Those are some examples of some liquids that I have here for you, but in liquids, the bases you're going to see are going to be water, silicone, oil, hybrid, mineral, right? Those all come in liquid forms, right? They're going to be like those that I showed you. They're going to be more lotiony. They're going to be, I would say, your BB creams and your CC creams. Because those have a lot more pigment in them than a tinted moisturizer, those are going to be in that liquid category as well. So that's a place to start if you're not sure. Try and focus on liquids. They're really easy to apply. You can use your hands, a brush, a sponge, just about anything you can use to apply a liquid foundation with, and you can get a really wide range of coverage, and they're very easy to learn how to use and very accessible. So after liquids, the next level or whatever I would say would be creams. So your creams are going to be the ones that are going to come in a stick or a pot or a pan, right? They are going to be typically oil or wax based for your creams. You might be saying, what is a wax based? Why would anybody want to use that? They've actually been around for a very long time. They're very popular with makeup artists because you can do anything with the wax base. So the one that I have here to show you is from my professional kit. This is the Le Maquillage Professional Fard Cream. This is one of their mini palettes. Let me take the lid off so it doesn't glare there. There we go. This is one of their mini palettes, right? So this is their one of their adjuster colors. So you can see you've got some skin tones, you've got some greens and oranges and purples and things to color correct and adjust. Let me get a little stick here so I can scoop some out, because I never work directly from the palette in my professional kit. So we're going to scrape some out here. Put the lid back on there. Right, I'll put it on my hand so I can show you, and I cleaned the other stuff off my hand. Right, so this is a wax-based, it's a Carnauba wax-based, it's called a Fard cream. Makeup Forever has their Flash palette, that's a Fard cream, that's a wax-based. There's a lot of them that are wax-based. The Kryolan Dermacolor, which is a very popular stage brand, that's a wax-based, it's a paraffin base. There is a lot, you know, some examples of some oil-based cream foundations would be those by like Graftobian and Ben Nye, again, stage. Another popular one is the RCMA foundations. Those are wax-based. So they're very densely pigmented. There's a lot of pigment in these, right? So I'm going to show you here, if you can see. Hopefully you can see my white hand on that screen there. How much coverage you get from something like that. Let me show you with a darker color. Maybe that'll show up better. I can demonstrate the amount of pigment in there. Let me show you with a dark color here. Okay. So these are definitely well suited for people that want very full coverage. If they have a lot of coverage that they need, right? If they have like some serious discoloration that they need to cover, if they're on stage, this is a great option. If you need something that will hold up all day long. So you can see there, that's a darker color, but you can see how densely pigmented it is just with that little bit that was on my finger. Right? And you can mix these. The great part about these is you can mix them with anything to get the kind of coverage that you want. So if you're more of an artistic kind of person and you want to play with different textures and coverages, right? You could mix this with a foundation and get you could mix this with a moisturizer and get a really sheer coverage with a formula like this, with the wax-based creams. right? So going on from creams, we have the cake, which are pressed powder, right? But it's not like an eyeshadow pressed or a setting powder pressed. They're really, really highly compressed, and they're a little bit different in formula. And you activate them with water, right? So a cake is going to be water base, water activated. You get it wet, you apply it to the skin. So like the old school pan makeup, the pancake, the Max Factor pancake, that's a classic one. You know, Ben Nye still has their pancakes that are water-based, and you spray water on them to use them. It's a bit like using a water activated face paint, if you've ever used one of those. So that's going to give you a very long lasting finish, a very matte finish, right? Very good for stage, for special makeups, character makeups, right? For that kind, but they are still out there. The next kind that we have is powders. So these are not going to be your finishing powders, your setting powders, right? These are not something that you use to set down another kind of foundation. The formulas are a little bit different. They have a lot of pigment in them, just as much as your liquids and creams, right? Well, maybe not just as much, but they have more than just a traditional setting powder. So here's an example of one. This is by Makeup Forever, right? So that's what that looks like. Hopefully you can see that. You can tell I like this one. I use it a lot. But this one has a nice coverage to it. So let me get some on my sponge here and I'll show you on my hand, right? How much coverage it has with just the swipe, right? So you can see it's more mattifying, a powder formula. It's very easy to apply, right? And you're going to get more of a sheer coverage. And then if you build it, you'll get more of a medium coverage, but they're definitely more sheer and very fast, right? So it's something you could just like take a brush to and just go and you're done and you can run out the door, right? I like to sometimes combine a tinted moisturizer with my powder where, you know, I need more of it, right? So that's a good quick option for an everyday kind of thing. This is another one here. This is by Jane Iredale. This is a mineral based. This is their pure pressed powder foundation, right? So it's a mineral formula that's just been compressed down without any liquids in it, and it's going to have the same kind of effect as the Makeup Forever one that I showed you there. Right, so I put my Makeup Forever one there, and then this is the Jane Iredale one. Hopefully you can see this swatch examples on my hand there. I hope you can see that. Right, and so the mineral formula I have found in using these two, the Makeup Forever will keep me matte for a lot longer, but that's also the formula, right? This is their matte velvet skin formula, and it's got things in there that have oil absorbing properties to help control oil throughout the day. The Jane Iredale one is going to give me a more natural finish. The minerals, I found that the mineral based products tend to, over the day, your skin tends to incorporate them in with your oils and on your skin more, and it just gets more natural looking as the day goes on. They just look really nice for a long time. So that's minerals. A lot of people like those because there's not as many ingredients that can irritate the skin. Okay, so the last one that I want to talk about, and that one is Airbrush, right? So technically it's going to be a liquid, right? But I wanted to put it in its own category because it is a specific type of liquid. It's been thinned out so that it can run through an airbrush gun. So the kinds that you see that people paint with, that they, you know, detail cars with, that they decorate cakes with, it's the same kind of system, the compressor that blows air through this airbrush gun, right? So you have different bases for the airbrush as well. You have water-based, you have silicone-based, you have alcohol-based, and then they also make hybrids as well, right? And mixtures of those different things. The alcohols, again, you will really only see those in body painting or on sets, film sets and things where they need the makeup to be very waterproof. You know, maybe the actor's going in and out of water and they need something that's very, very waterproof, or they're covering a tattoo. I would use an alcohol-based product foundation to cover a tattoo because it's not going to rub off, it's not going to wash off, it's not going to come off in the water and sweating and whatever it is that people are doing. It'll just dry up on the skin and stay there until you take it off with either a special remover or with alcohol itself, right? To take rubbing alcohol, reactivate it, and it'll come off. So you won't see those in commercial applications as much, but you will see the water base and the silicone base. You'll see sometimes infomercials about, you know, the Luminous or the Tinted systems for airbrush, and yes, they really do work, but they do take a bit of trial and error. There's a learning curve with airbrush, especially doing it on yourself, right? Because you're blowing air on yourself. I use them a lot on my clients. I love the finish of an airbrush. The airbrush blows out the product with the air in an even distribution, and it doesn't lay all of the color right next to each other. Like if I were to take the let's take the Ellis Foss here, and I'll put a teeny bit on my hand, right? So if I'm going to take this and I kind of smear it around, right, you're going to get different textures of color based on how you apply it, right? But pretty much a solid color there, especially if you look really close. For an airbrush machine, it's going to, like I said, evenly disperse the color. But if you look really close, like microscopically close, right, because the particles are so small, you are going to see gaps between where the color is and where your skin is. So it's creating a even complexion. It's tricking the eye to see something as an even color when it's not, if that makes sense. So let me show you here. This is the Temp 2 Air. This is their compressor here. It's a handheld system. This is really good for doing foundation light beauty work. You know, if I'm doing a lot of people or any kind of heavier work, then I will, I'm just shaking it up here. So it's got a pod that you attach. I'll use my traditional gun if I'm doing more than just foundation, was what I was saying. So we're going to turn it on here and let me show you, right? So you can hear that. You can hear the air spray, right? So we have our Ellis Foss right here. I'm just going to spray this on the skin right next to it, and we'll leave a little gap. Turn that off. And there you can see we have the airbrush on this side and the traditional silicone base application on this side. So hopefully you can see that, and that it just gives a very light sheer wash of color. So I wanted to show you that as an example as well. That is something that's available and is out there, and yes, I do use that on myself. So those are foundations. Those are the different types, textures. Like I said, I couldn't show you everything. Hopefully I didn't show you too much and confuse you even more. Just a little overview. If you want something sheer, look for something that is like a tinted moisturizer or a liquid base. You probably would be happiest with a water or silicone base formula or a hybrid formula. If you're looking for something that's super fast, go with a powder or a tinted moisturizer. If you want something more artistic and very full coverage, go for your creams or cakes. And depending on your skin and the condition it's in, you know, whether you're dry, oily, aging, reactive, sensitive, whatever it is, will depend on the base that you want to go with. Hopefully that was clear enough for you. I hope that it helped. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a great day.